OSHA's new Bloodborne Pathogen Standard, 1910.1030, went into effect in March 1992 and protects more than 5 million workers nationwide. You might be one of them. If you come in contact with blood or other body fluids on the job, the following guidelines have been established for your protection. The Bloodborne Pathogen Standard contains 7 parts. Develop a written exposure control plan, comply with universal precautions of infection control, offer vaccinations against hepatitis, establish post-exposure and follow-up procedures, provide hazard communication, training, and information, and establish record-keeping procedures. The written exposure control plan includes a list of the job types, job descriptions, and job procedures where exposure is most likely. The plan also includes a schedule, method for putting the standard into effect, and the procedure your company will use to verify exposure has taken place. This written exposure control plan will be reviewed annually and updated if jobs or procedures change. Universal precautions of infection control means that all blood and body fluids must be treated as if they're infectious. Establishing universal precautions requires 3 kinds of control to be put into place. First are workplace controls to reduce your contact with blood or other body fluids. Facilities and procedures for hand washing are examples of workplace controls. The second control is use of personal protective equipment. It will be provided by the employer. If resuscitation is expected, one-way valves and face barriers will be provided also. The third control is to create and carry out a written schedule for cleaning, replacing, or updating all personal protective equipment. If hazardous waste is produced at your company, a schedule for managing and disposing of it will also be developed. Employers will offer the hepatitis vaccination to all workers at risk of exposure to blood or other body fluids. It will be made available within 10 days of job assignment. If exposure does occur, your employer will provide you with confidential medical evaluation and follow-up. This includes explaining the bloodborne pathogen's entry routes, identification and testing of the fluid you came in contact with, a blood test, and treatment and/or counseling about the possible effects of exposure. All possibly infectious material must be labeled in accordance with established OSHA hazardous material standards. And if blood or other infectious materials become waste, appropriate containers and warning labels must be used. Your employer will provide training and information if you're at risk of exposure. It will be presented as soon as your assignment puts you at risk, and it will be repeated annually. The training will include an explanation of the kinds of bloodborne diseases, a description of how they're transmitted, a copy and explanation of the OSHA standard, a description of the control plan, work practices, protective equipment, and any other resources your employer uses to protect you. Information on how to use personal protective equipment, information about what to do if exposure happens, and a question and answer period conducted by the trainer. Your employer will keep records if you're at risk of exposure. A written description of your job will also be maintained for as long as you work for the company, plus 30 years. And this information will remain confidential. Records of the training you receive about the bloodborne pathogen standard will also be maintained and will be kept on file for 3 years. OSHA's bloodborne pathogen standard is designed to define those who are at risk. If you are at risk and want to know more, your employer will provide you with a copy of the standard as part of your training. Remember, the risk of exposure can be greatly reduced by following the guidelines in the standard. This is Claude Akins reminding you that safety is your job too.